All right, Steve here from Blossom Racing coming to you. We are going to start a video. This is going to be a video on reaction time, how to adjust reaction time, slow it down, speed it up. We're going to talk about the easy ways to do it, and then we're going to get really in depth into the polar primary clutch. And get really technical on some of the things that are going to adjust how quick, how slow your reaction time is on your clutch. So here we have the polar primary, the belt. We have a keyed primary post, a spline primary post. Let me go grab a piece of paper real quick. I forgot one of those, so I can draw a diagram real quick. So let me jump into the office here and grab one. It'll just take me a second, and all I'm going to do is just draw a picture of a ramp. That way I can kind of talk to you about how each stage comes in and how it works. So pretty much here is a ramp. Your very first angle, let's just say we're working a 15, 30, 24 ramp. So here's your 15 degree, and then you're going to do a 30 degree, and then 15, 30, and then we're going to finish out with the 24 degree. All right, don't mind my drawing. I am not an artist. So if you see the ramp here, here is your first angle right here. That's your first angle. That's your 15 degree angle. And then your second, angle. And the third angle. So here you got your first angle, your second angle, and your third angle. So this is a 15, a 30, and a 24, or it could be a 12, 28, 22, 15, 28, 22, 12, 30, 24, okay? We'll come back to that in a minute, and we're going to talk about the easy way of changing your reaction time on the car. So what we have are these shims right here. All right, this shim goes in between your primary post. Right here, it'll sit right on top of your primary post, just like that. And then your cover for your clutch, put that on there, and your cover for your clutch goes right on top. So what that does is this is going to push your ramps right in here. It's going to push your ramps up and away from the clutch. Well, what does that do? Let me tell you what that does. So in relation of the rollers and your ramps. So when you put the cover on with a shim, it is going to push this farther up, which is going to move the location of your roller. It's going to push the first contact of the roller closer to this first angle. So this first angle right here is, we're going to call that neutral, okay? The first 15-degree angle right here is going to be neutral. So when you start your car, your primary roller is going to sit right here on this first angle. Now, when you hit the gas, the roller is going to start rolling down this ramp, and when it hits the very first angle change, when it goes from the 15-degree to the 30-degree, that is when the magic is going to start happening and that car starts taking off. So if we take that roller location on this first angle, and if we move it this way, right, then that roller has to go this far before it's going to engage. So if we take that roller and move it closer to this first angle right here, that is going to decrease how far that roller has to go before the clutch engages. So moving it closer to this first edge is going to speed up your reaction time. But there's always a but. If you move it too close to this first angle, the car will take off and sound like it's leaving in second gear because you won't get that initial flash of RPM. So if by chance you have that happen, it's just because you moved that roller too close to that first angle. So let's say our kid is a little slow on the tree and we want to speed them up. We have 10 thou, 16 thou, 20 thou, 25 thou, and 30 thou shims. So basically, if my kid's slow and I want to pick them up a little bit, you pull out the 10 thou, the 16 thou. If he's super slow, and you want to speed them up even more, then you're looking at the 25, 30 thou one. So it's really simple. You just slide the clutch right together, take your shim, set your shim right on top of the post, and that shim and everything, of course, is going to go right into the slot. Simply that way. You put your clutch back together like that. Take your barrel lock, screw that in, boom, you're ready to go. So this clutch is going to be a little bit faster. Okay, so some of the measurements that you're going to want. Let's talk about the post. This also has a lot to do with reaction time, but there's two measurements here. Basically, you have like your belt width. So if you measure right here, this one measures 1.245. I usually like to see these about 1.230. The reason for that is the width of the belts. Used to be the belts were 780, 790 wide. Since then, they're now 800, 815, 820 wide. Used to be, we used to cut this down to 1 inch, 220. And since the belts are a little bit wider now, we actually only cut it down to 1 inch, 230. So that's kind of where you get your air gap from on your clutches right there, because what happens, your movable part on your clutch comes down and you got the, you know, the square washer in there. Well, that square washer is going to lay right up against that shoulder. So when you slide it in like that, I can't push it in anymore. So that's where it bottoms out right there. And that's where you get your width right here from your belt. So what does that have to do with reaction time? Has to do with belt gap. Your air gap on your belt. You know, you got your belt. Yeah, we're going to be jumping all over here, guys. I'm going to try and explain everything as good as I can. So you got this together. So when this starts to engage, you know, it starts to push together. The spring will start to compress. That's when this clutch engages. So when you're sitting there idling, this is going to be the width right here. You take this and you push it until it bottoms out. It bottomed out, so there's your width. You throw your belt on, hold this together, kind of pinch that belt, and then you take a feeler gauge and you put it on the side of the belt. If you can see, I'm moving that belt back and forth in there a little bit. So this has air gap, and just guessing, you know, there's probably about 60 thou worth of air gap in there. So when I cut this post down, because this post hasn't been cut down yet, when I cut that down, then it's going to be, you know, probably around 50, 60 thou worth of end gap in there, okay? So that has a lot to do with reaction time as well. Obviously, the less air gap that you have, the shorter time that it takes this movable sheave to start coming over and grab that belt. So the less air gap would essentially speed up reaction time. More air gap would lower your reaction time. And again, you have to be careful, because there is a point when you go too far and there's not enough gap that your clutch doesn't have the RPM flash, and it falls on its face. So again, you have to be careful. Just like on the ramps, it'll do the same thing on the ramps. If you get too close to that edge, it won't allow the motor to flash up in RPMs. And what I usually mean by flash, you're usually idling at about 4,000, 4,500. Right when you hit when the kid hits the throttle, if you watch that tack will flash up to 68, 69, 7,000 RPMs. And then the belt grabs a hold of the clutch and the belt grab hold, and that's when it starts taking off, okay? All right, so the first thing, the easiest way is shims. Putting shims on your 10, 16, 20s. That will push the cover up farther, which puts the rollers closer to this first angle, okay? And then we have that measurement, which is belt width, all right? And then the other measurement that we're going to have is going to be the post length. So from this shoulder to the tip of the post, sliding your depth gauge on your calipers down. Oh, and your calipers need to have, you're going to be your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths. You need a pair of calipers that has that many numbers right there, not just two numbers after the decimal point, okay? Those don't work. You know who I'm talking about. All right. So sliding this down, we're about 3 inches, 120, 122, right in there. That's the normal length of one of these primary posts. So let's say you're going red all the time. So if you're going red all the time, you can either increase your belt gap. If you have shims in there, you can take the shims out. Another trick that will happen is you take the end of this and cut 10 thousandths off of it. You'd want to do that in a lathe because you want it, you want it straight across. You don't want it cut on an angle, with a hacksaw or anything. So if you want to slow down your reaction time, you can cut some off of this 10 thou, and it's not a major deal because let's say you cut 10 thou off this, and then all of a sudden your kid is having really bad lights, 500 lights, 600 lights, just having really bad lights, right? So simple. You want to go back the other way, then that's when you just take a shim and put a shim back on the cover. So cutting this off takes the roller on the first angle and moves it back this way. Cutting it off is going to slide the rollers back up your first angle of your ramp. So now your roller has to go that much farther before it engages. So your engagement is basically this first angle. Okay? So what some people do is they actually cut these off. They'll cut 20 thou off, and then you can really play with it by stacking a 30 thou, a 10 thou. You know, you can actually adjust it to every day of racing. You know, he goes out one day and your kid's cutting perfect lights, and then he's really slow on the tree. You can adjust this. You know, the key of everything is if the kid's really consistent on the tree. If your kid goes out there and he's cutting red lights, or she cutting red lights all day long, and then throws in a couple really slow green lights, and then red lights, and then slow green lights, those are going to be a lot harder to adjust and play with on your clutch. But if you can get a kid to hit that tree at the exact same time every time, you can actually bring the clutch to them. So that was the spline post that I measured for you. Here is the keyed post. I'll get it here in a minute. This one's 3.1, 3.120, 124. You know, same thing. 3.120, 124, right in that ballpark. Okay? So that's how you adjust all that. Let's talk a little bit about ramps. So you remember me talking about the ramp, saying there's first degree angle is a 15 or a 12. Well, okay, in reaction time, which one is going to react faster, a 15 degree or a 12 degree angle? And we're talking about this first angle right here. So if this is a 12 degree angle and it's laying a little bit flatter and you hit the gas, it's going to take that roller longer to move to that first angle. So essentially that is going to slow down your reaction time. It's going to raise your RPMs a little bit because that roller is going to dwell on this first angle a little bit longer. Okay, so now let's change that to a 15 degree angle instead of a 12. So we're going a little bit steeper now. So when that roller's on here, that roller, you're going to hit the gas, it's going to engage, and it's going to run a little bit faster. So your RPM engagement's going to come down, and it's going to engage quicker. The roller won't have to go nearly as far to that first angle. So a steeper first degree angle is going to react quicker. Okay? So reaction time wise, if you had 12, 30, 24 ramps in your clutch and the kid was a little slow on reaction time, you could go to the 15, 30, 24. So the 30 to 24 is going to be exactly the same. We're just going to change the first angle, make that a little bit steeper, which means that that clutch is going to react quicker. Okay? The other most simplest way to adjust reaction time is RPM, what you're idling at. So if you were to take your belt off your clutch, start your car up, and then slowly rev up your RPMs, bring your RPMs up, and right when you see the face of the clutch, the movable part, right when you see that thing pop over and kick in, you want to look at the RPMs and see where your clutch is engaging, okay? That'll just give you a reference point of where your engagement is, right? So how you can use that is to adjust your RPMs of where you're idling. So let's just say this pops over at 4,600 RPMs, okay? Obviously, you're not going to want to idle your car at 45 or 4,600 RPMs because, again, your clutch isn't going to get that flash. Because you're so close to the engagement, right when you hit the gas, that clutch is going to grab and your RPMs is not going to flash up to that 6,800 RPMs. And basically your car is going to fall right on its nose right out of the starting line, okay? So what you do is you take that 4,600 engagement and you take your idle back a little bit to like 4,000 to 4,300. You know, you're a couple hundred RPMs under it. And that's where you're going to want to idle. Well, then reaction time wise, let's say your kid's a little slow on the reaction time. Well, just take and creep up that reaction, the idle. And what you're going to do is you're going to move that idle closer to the engagement. So now when he hits the gas, it's not going to have as far to go to engage. So essentially it's going to speed up your reaction time. And then vice versa, if they're red lighting a lot, you just lower that RPM. So now you have so much farther to go. So there are literally a ton of ways to adjust to get RPM, to get reaction time slower or faster. The easiest way is probably the shims. The shims are the easiest way to adjust it. Another way, car-wise, you know, your spindles, offset spindles. Put an offset spindle in, it's going to slow down reaction time. Put straight up spindles in, it'll speed up your reaction time, right? You know, that's another trick. What else do we got here? Let's get back into the ramps right here. So again, reaction time. So how we're going to do that, here we go. I lost my train of thought there for a second. So here's what we're going to do. Black's not going to work good. Let me grab a marker. So what I typically do on my clutch is I take a white paint marker and I'm going to color up the first angle, the 15-degree angle. You can do it on all of them. And again, this is going to be very helpful also in reaction time. Putting your shims in or taking them out, and then looking at your ramp. If you look at the ramp in there, see how I put white on all the tips of the ramps, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to put the clutch together. Just like this. And then here's the other thing I need to explain a little bit to you about it. Give me just a second. Let me put this in the vise and get her tightened down so I can show you another aspect of this. So when you're testing this, when you're putting marks on your clutch, drop all your tools. Okay. So we got this all together. Okay. So all your clutches should have movement. So your sheave, your movable sheave, you should be able to move it. If you look, I'm just squeezing it. You see how that's moving? So when you test this to get these marks, you have to make sure that that movable sheave is all the way up against that post. Remember in the post a little bit earlier, I slid it on here and it bottomed out right here. What you don't want is you don't want that up like that. So you want your sheave down. So you want to hold it. So how I do it is I come in here with my thumbs inside and I'm kind of pushing on the arms, and then I'm just kind of flopping the arms and I'm spinning the rollers, right? So what that's doing is that is putting marks on that paint in there that I painted up, okay? So I'm holding this down, kind of, it's not engaged, but it's up against your spring in there, your little spring retainer. It's all pushed up against it, which is in the engagement ready position. And I'm just going down in there, taking my rollers, hitting them up against the paint, and getting some marks transposed onto the roller, okay? And let me get this back apart real quick. Take me just a second. And once we got this back apart, we're going to pull the cover off. And if you look down in there on your ramp, you can see a little line right where the roller hits on the ramp. Okay? You can see that little line right there. All right, so what does that line mean? So that line is going to talk about reaction time. So let's pull our chart out right here. And let's say my line is right in here. Okay? So my line is touching right there. And that's where the roller is hitting the ramp. So now if I move that location of where that roller hits, right? Let's say I want a faster reaction time. I'm going to move it closer to my first angle, but you have to be careful, again, moving it too close to that first angle. Typically what we found, and I'm sure it's different for every clutch out there because belts are different, tensions are different, usually within about 60 thou, measuring from that first angle back, you want that mark to be about 60 thou. That's typically where we start. Any closer than that, you're going to get that falling on its face, feeling like it's leaving in second gear issue. But again, it may be different because it's going to depend on your air gap. If you have a lot of air gap, a small belt, you may be able to run it closer to that first angle. So, and then simply adjusting where that roller sits on that ramp is either by putting shims in or taking shims out to move it to get a different reaction time. All right, so whew, yeah, these clutches are can be quite exciting. So I think reaction time wise, that's pretty much the gist of it. Weights on your clutch usually don't change your reaction time very much. The main things that that will change your reaction time is either talking car wise, spindles, getting into the clutch. Easiest way is shims. Check us out. We actually sell a shim kit where you'll get a kit of these shims that you can play with and kind of adjust your reaction time. Ramps, the first degree, the first angle of your ramp is basically your reaction time angle. 12 degree is going to be a slower reaction time. 15 degree steeper angle, quicker reaction time. Okay. The other angles are just down track, about how hard you're going to load it. Angles are going to determine where you're going to shift down track. Steeper angle, you're going to shift earlier, lower RPMs. A shorter angle, the car's going to go farther down track, higher RPMs before it shifts. Okay, follow all that? All right, calipers. If you're going to get calipers, please get the calipers that has more digits than just 2. So this one has like 4 digits right after the point. So you got the 0 point and then 4 digits. Those are the best ways to go. The 2-digit ones, I bought a couple of them a month ago and I threw them all in the trash because they're absolutely useless. So don't use those. Okay, so if you have any questions or see anything that maybe I missed in this video, please shout it out down in the comments. Let me know. I'll come back on and do a revision and see if I can't address any of the questions that I may have caused you to have during this video, but hopefully I explained it and you guys understand it. So hopefully that helps you guys out, and you can feel a little more confident now adjusting your RPM engagement, your reaction time, and get you guys down that track and hopefully in the winner's circle. So like and subscribe to my channel. You guys really help me out watching these videos. Hit me up with some comments down here. Hopefully the video turns out good. The video always kind of messes up a little bit when I transfer it from my phone to YouTube. It shrinks it down. So I'm getting a little bit better at it, but So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Stay frosty. Have a good one and be safe out there. Take care, guys.